Hello, my name's Dave and welcome to Produce at Home. So if you're new to Pro Tools or you're thinking about getting Pro Tools but it looks a bit scary and a little bit confusing, then fear not. I'm here to show you the very basics of Pro Tools and how to get started in it in this video. Alright, so stick around and let's dive into it. So my setup then, I've got I think it's a 2011 iMac, a 27-inch, so it's quite a big screen, but it's an old computer now. It still does the job, but unfortunately it is on its way out, so I'm going to have to replace it at some point. On this machine, I've got Pro Tools 10 and Pro Tools 11, so I'll just run you through the latest version I've got, which is 11.3.1. And I'm going to have to assume at this point that your outboard equipment, if you've got any, like your keyboards and maybe your controller or a mixer, that you've already got those set up and ready to go. So with that said, what we're going to do first is jump into Pro Tools. I'm going to try and show you how you can streamline your workflow so that every time you open Pro Tools, it's actually ready for you, not just a blank session, but it's ready for you to start creating straight away. There's nothing worse in the world than having to go through loads of settings. You know, when you've got an idea, go through loads of settings, loads of setup and all that rubbish, and then by the time you actually get to hit the record button, you know, that feeling's gone and you're a little bit deflated. So the best way to counteract that is to create yourself a template so that when you do start Pro Tools up, you just select your template and boom, everything's there that you need. You can just stick an instrument on or plug your guitar in and you can start recording. So here's my system then. I've got Pro Tools 10 and Pro Tools 11 up here. I've already got my outboard equipment turned on. So I'm just going to open Pro Tools and I'll show you what it gives you when you first open it. Right, I'm going to need my purple glasses for this. Apologies. So fresh into Pro Tools, you open it up and you're faced with a quick start screen, which is really good. Let me just talk you through this screen. So you can either create a session from template. So they've already set up a number of templates for you here. There's your folders and you can get, you know, ballad guitar, blues, metal guitar. And what those are, they're just quick templates set out. So you've got some channels to actually use with maybe some effects on them, etc. But I would suggest that you don't use these templates and I would suggest that you create your own. Underneath that, you can create a blank session, which is totally fresh, nothing in it, blank screen. You can start blank piece of paper. You can open a recent session. So this is music that you've been working on before. And you can open a session there, means when you hit OK, it will take you to your hard drives and ask you where the session is that you want to open. It's as simple as that. So for the purposes of this tutorial, what we're going to do is create a blank session. So we're going to start afresh and I'll show you how you can save your own templates. So creating a blank session, you're faced with these options. I'll show you how I do this, and obviously you can research and do this differently if you want, but I'll tell you why I do it the way I do it. So your audio file type, if you want it to be compatible with Windows and Mac, easily compatible, then choose WAV, and I do choose WAV. If you know you're just going to be working on a Mac and it will never go anywhere else, you can use the AI FF audio file type, which is, I think that's an Apple file type. But for all intents and purposes, I would choose WAV there. So keep WAV. Your sample rate, 44.1 is okay for podcasts and things like that, and saves, you know, a bit of space on your hard drive. But for better quality and for more professional applications, then you go for 48 kilohertz and above. 48 is pretty much all I need, so I set that on 48. You then got a bit depth. You can go 16-bit or 24-bit. Obviously 16-bit is CD quality, that sort of thing. But if you want more headroom and you want to give your mixing engineer or your masterer more options, then definitely go for 24-bit. The downside is 24-bit is that it's going to take more processing power on your computer, and your file sizes will be bigger. But you'll get some great benefits from choosing 24-bit. So if you're going professional, then you want 48 kilohertz at 24-bit at least. I've never seen the need to go to 32-bit float, although you can if you want. Okay, all other options I just leave as they are as standard. And what we're going to do now is press OK, and it will create a blank template, a blank session. It's going to ask me where I want to save it. So it thinks at this point that I'm actually going to be creating a new session so I can start working on a new song. So it wants to know where I want to put it. So choose your hard drive, choose your folder, and choose what you want to call it. So I'm going to call it a Dave's session. Okay, if this was a song, I'd call it the song name. And what will happen is when you press save, it'll create a folder called Dave's session. And then within that folder will be subfolders which will contain all your audio files and everything else connected to that session. It's important that you save your sessions in a place that you know and don't have them all over the place and don't move them around. Try and keep them together if you can. And if you do it this way, then you'll have a folder for each of your sessions or songs. Okay, so if I press save, bang. What happens there is it's now given me a blank page, and it's waiting for me to start adding tracks and things like that. So we've got no tracks, no nothing at the moment. Let's rectify that. So we're going to put some tracks in. So don't forget, we're setting up a template here so you can open this every time and use it. So we're going to do new track, and I'm going to create 10 stereo instrument tracks. So them are for my synths and my drum machine and stuff like that. And then I'm going to press the plus button, and I'm going to add 5 mono audio tracks. So them are for my vocals. Then I'm going to press the plus button. I'm also going to create 1 stereo master fader so that I can turn the volume up and down of the whole session. Then I'm simply going to click create. My control surface comes alive, and on the screen there you can see that everything we've asked it to create, it's put down here in the bottom. So just a little bit about these windows here and the layout that I've got. So you've got your mix window down here, and up here you've got your edit window. So as you put your MIDI actually playing the notes into this session, or you're singing into a mic, you will see the waveforms or the MIDI notes coming up here on whatever channel you're on. Down here is more for your mixer and your panning and your effects and your plugins and your routing and all that kind of stuff. If you've only got a small screen and you can only see part of this, it's best to flick between the 2 windows and have them full screen. So you just do window, and you can either click your mix window or your edit window and just keep going backwards and forwards between the 2, and there's shortcut keys there that can help you do that. So it's created all my channels down the bottom here, but it's got them all selected at the moment, so they're all white, and I don't want that. So I'm going to hold command down and just press one of them, and then as I click through I can select each channel individually. So as we said, down here we've got our instrument tracks. So I'm going to put plugins on there like Battery 3 or Battery 4 drum machine, or expand or a complete control piano synth or something like that in the inserts up here. But because I want to set up a template, there are things that I always put in every tune really to start with. So I'm going to just rename these instrument inputs. You just double click on the name at the bottom. So I'm going to call that one Boss, as in Boss Drum. Don't hate me for it, it's from the 80s. I've always called my bass drum Boss for some reason. So I call Boss. Then I'm going to do a hi-hat. And then open hi-hat. And then I could have a snare. These could be anything you want. And then maybe a crash cymbal. And why don't we have a ride cymbal as well? So what I've done there is created my my drum tracks, but they look the same as pretty much everything else at the moment. It's all a bit, it is a bit confusing about what are drum tracks, what are vocal tracks, what are other instrument tracks. So what I'm going to do is hold shift and just select all of my drum tracks. I'm going to double click on the colour at the bottom, and I'm going to colour them all red. You can colour these any colour you want. You can change the saturation, have it brighter, dimmer. Yeah, you can do all sorts in there. But for now, let's just say that all my drums are red. Easy to identify. You can go straight to your drums if you just look for red. For my other instruments, I'm going to have a piano. All my songwriting starts with piano. Then I'm going to go for a pad, for instance. Maybe a string. And I don't know, let's say synth. Oh no, let's say bass, as in bass guitar. Now those, I'm just going to select those with my shift, and I'm going to change that colour to, let's go for a green. It's a bit bright, isn't it? There you go. So all my synths are now green, all my drum kits are now blue, or red even. For my audio tracks here, I'm going to call that one Vox, so that'll be my lead vocal. Then you could have backing left, for instance, and backing right as an example. So I'm on my own, so I usually double track and go left, right for backing, that kind of stuff. If you've got a guitar, you could say acoustic guitar on that audio track, and then you could call that one electric guitar. Just examples. If you want to move these channels around, so if they're in the wrong order for you, like mine are, I like to have my bass at the start of my instrument line up, and you just literally click and drag left or right. And my boss is always at the start. My master track over here, I want that to stand out a bit, so I'm going to make that, let's call it just bright yellow. And I always put my master track at the beginning, so that turns the volume up and down of the whole session. So we've got our drums set up, our synths, our vocal inputs, guitar, etc., and our master. We can then add, if we wanted to, a click track. So if you are, recording MIDI, or you want to hear a click track, then you may as well put that on there, because I always have a click track. And it's in here somewhere. There you go. So it's in track, create click track. There's your click. Drop the volume of that a little bit. And if you've got this far and you're happy with the screens and how you've laid them out, then what you could do at this point is you could just save it. So it's Dave's session at the moment. It thinks it's a song. You could just save it. And then, so one way of doing this is every time you open Pro Tools, if you just open Dave's session and then save as something else, so if you're doing another session, you could just do it like that. You could just keep reopening this, saving as, saving as, saving as. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to save this as a template, so that when you do open Pro Tools, you can select it from a list, and you can do as many templates as you want. And the way you do that is, so if you've got this laid out exactly how you want it, you just do File, Save as Template, and it's going to ask you which folder you want to put the template in. Well, I don't want to put it in any of those category folders, so I'm going to add a new category. I'm going to call it Dave. Everything's Dave. And I'm going to call it Dave's Session Template. And I'm just going to say OK. So what that does is, if I was to quit Pro Tools and then reopen it, so it's another day now, I want to do another song. So now when I open it, I can do create session from template. I can look in the Dave folder and I can select Dave's session template, and hopefully Oh, it's going to ask me. It knows I want to write a new song, but I don't want to save over the template. So it's going to ask me where I want to save this. And I'm going to save it in my YouTube folder on my audio drive. And I'm going to call it Dave's New Song. Fingers crossed. Boom. It's exactly how we set it. So you can do that over and over and over and over and over again, and you can refine that template and just keep saving over the template until you get your template absolutely perfect. The other point to note is that if you add any plugins on any of these channels and save it as a template, when you open that, the plugins will also come with it. All right, so nice and simple. So another thing I wanted to show you while we're looking at the basics here is the Windows layout. There are many different things you can add to this layout. Once you understand what they are, you can add things all over the place, and you can get a little bit muddled up in it. So if I got it exactly how I wanted it and then I screwed it up, so for instance, if I've got this perfect. So before we go any further, let's just save that perfect setup. And the way you can do that is if you go into Window, Configurations, and you want to save a new configuration, and we're going to call it Dave's Windows, or wait, call it what you like. And I'm just going to leave it on Window Layout. Right, it's very quick to do that. You saw how fast that was. Now if I get into my MIDI settings and start moving things around and get really confused about where I am, and I go down menu after menu after menu and I don't know how to get back, and it's all a bit of a panic, all I've got to do now is go into Window, Configuration, and click on Dave's Windows. Boom! And we're back where we started. So that's it really for this video, and this is practically step one, just showing you how to save your templates and set your sessions up. This will help with your workflow. Try and do this. If you can get the hang of doing this, then every time you get that creative flair, when you jump onto Pro Tools and just open your template, you can literally just hit record and start recording. It's the perfect way to stay motivated in a track. Like I say, the last thing you want is to be messing around setting a session up when you're just dying to get something down onto disk. All right. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this one. If you have, then it'd be great if you could subscribe to me below. I'm going to be doing many of these videos and these little tutorials. But thank you very much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.